My sister-in-law's daughter is about to get married in a big luxury venue, and she wants me to be there along with, well, my family. But I'm boycotting this wedding because I hate my sister-in-law. And a lot of my family don't know why I hate her so much. Let me share with you my story.
Hello everyone, how are you? I hope I'm doing this right because I've got no clue how to make a post, but hopefully it works out fine. Anyways, I don't have anyone to tell this to because it's a secret I've held for over 3 decades or even more. At this point, I can't bring myself to tell anybody what it's about or how it's led to many of my life decisions. My sister-in-law has been abusing me for decades. No, not physically, mentally, psychologically, and emotionally. She's been making sure that my life has never been as good as hers would ever be. When it did become nice, her abuse increased as well. I've known my sister-in-law Emily since we were in elementary school, and I still remember the first time I've met her. It wasn't pleasant at all. She was the kind of girl who was surrounded by people at all times, her blonde hair flowing behind her, while beautiful eyes, shining, and a kind smile on her face. However, that smile turned into a scowl every time she looked at me. I had not even done anything to her, but it felt like she held a personal grudge against me. She'd never be nice to me, would always make fun of my red hair, and would tell me I needed to reconsider my fashion choices. All of that, and we were in elementary school. A year later, when we shifted to middle school, our branch changed. The elementary school branch was different, and the middle schoolers and high schoolers were together. Well, when the school branch changed, my life changed as well. Let me explain. Emily's brother was a grade above us, and when we moved, I finally met him. For both of us, it was like we clicked instantly, and a look into others' eyes, and we knew that we'd get along really well. Mark was a lean, tall guy whose smile lit up the entire room. Emily looked up to Mark as her role model, and she would always try to be friends with his friends since they were, quote, cool, and she wanted to be in the cool category. Imagine her shock when I became friends with Mark and his friends instead. I don't even remember how we became friends since it's been so long, but all I remember is that suddenly I was hanging out with them and being all friendly with Mark specifically. This made Emily really angry, and her bullying increased a huge amount. In class, well, she'd never let me concentrate on my work. She'd make the other girls join in of making fun of me, and she'd make me do assignments for her, all the general stuff that mean girls usually do. However, she'd never tell Mark what was happening. He was such a nice guy, he would never stand for any of this. I don't know why I did not tell Mark either, but I think it's because I did not want to be perceived as weak in front of him. I wanted him to know that I could handle myself and that I did not need anybody's help in fending off another mean girl in my class. I wanted to be brave. This is why I never told anybody how she completely ruined my self-esteem, made me insecure about myself, and made me wish I could quit school just so I could stay away from her. It got worse as time went on, and she started making more friends, and I started losing more. Whenever Mark would ask me why I never hung out with people from my grade, the only thing that I could tell him was that I loved hanging out with him instead. Emily always told him that I never paid attention to anybody in my grade, which is why I didn't have any friends, but that was far from the truth. Emily never let me make friends in my grade because she would tell everybody rumors about me that I still had no idea about. All I know is that nobody wanted to be my friend after Emily had a little small talk with them. School was always really lonely for me, but it became worse because of Emily. Mark and his friends were the only people who made it bearable for me, but I could not be with them all the time. Some days our lunch wasn't even at the same period, so I had to sit and eat my lunch all alone with Emily and her friends laughing at me from a distance. All of it hurt really bad, and I wanted to tell Mark about how bad it was getting but it was too late by then. It had already been almost 2 years since Emily had decided to make my life a living hell, and I had to tell somebody. I should have mentioned it when it first started. Besides, by then I was starting to develop a tiny little crush on Mark as well, so I wanted to appear even more put together. Telling him that I was getting bullied was just going to make me look like an idiot in front of him, so I did not tell him anything. I made myself go through hell on earth because I wanted to impress Mark. Fortunately for me, though, he started liking me as well. We were both idiots who thought the other did not like them, so we kept quiet. However, a few more weeks in, I needed to tell him how I felt about him, so I wrote a long love letter of sorts and gave it to him before rushing to class. I didn't want to look at his expression when he was reading it because, come on guys, that's just scary. Besides, I didn't even know if he liked me back or not. It was an impulsive decision, but one that I'm really glad I did. I remember being stressed about his reaction during the entire class period, and Emily, being her usual self, did not help at all. I was stuck between stressing about Mark's reaction and thinking about the words that Emily was throwing at me without any sort of mercy. But I got through the entire class without anything bad happening. Usually, Emily's actions and words get me on a verge of an anxiety attack. That day, I was just too worried about Mark's reaction and what he would say to me to even bother listening to the rubbish that Emily kept spouting. I was terrified about the fact that if Mark did not like me, our friendship would be ruined and the only thing that he was keeping me sane in school would now go to a waste. I did not know what I would do without him, honestly. Emily already made this a hellhole for me. Not talking to Mark would be the icing on the cake to make me hate everyone and everything around me. However, when I got out of class, I saw Mark waiting for me by my locker, letter in hand, a silly grin on his face, and he saw me walking towards him. That grin immediately let me know what was happening, so I rushed into his arms and let out the first genuine laugh of the day. What I didn't notice was that Emily was right there with her friends watching me kiss her brother, while both of us looked at each other like the stars hung on our faces. If I had known she was there to witness all of that, I would have dragged Mark away to continue with our little conversation. However, I was so engrossed in Mark that I did not even think of noticing my surroundings before jumping into his arms. After that, the situation with Emily got even worse. She never harmed me physically, but everything she said to me, everything she did to me was enough to cause physical effects. I started developing anxiety and self-esteem issues because of her, which got worse with time. Every single time I walked into class, Emily and her little posse would stare at me up and down and then proceed to laugh like I was some big joke. It was incredibly annoying, and it made me feel terrible about myself. But there was nothing that I could even do about it. I could not fight back. I could not tell anyone. I was all alone and I had to fight it all alone. I thought I would be done with her little mean girl tendencies by the time that we graduated high school, but it seemed like being a terrible person was just in Emily's blood. It was so confusing to me because her entire family was so nice. Even her younger brother and her parents loved me. They always treated me like their own every time I went over to their house, and if I ever needed anything, they'd help me without even me asking for it. Emily hated the fact that I was getting along so well with her family. It was killing her to see that somebody she hated so much was someone that her family loved. And she made sure that I was aware of the fact as well. Whenever I was at her house, but Mark wasn't with me, maybe while I was in the kitchen or going to the restroom, she'd come up to me and tell me that there's no space for me in this family and that I should just leave them alone. According to her, nobody except Mark actually liked me, and they were only nice to me because I was dating somebody in the family. At first, I did not believe her because I knew that she had a habit of getting into my head and convincing me that there was not anything good about me. However, this time she got into my head so much that I actually started to look for hints that would tell me if they actually liked me or not. I would constantly ask Mark if he was absolutely sure that his family liked me, and even he got confused because I was never one to ask such questions. So, he asked me if there was anything that was making me feel this way, and I wanted to tell him that it was his own sister making me feel this way for years, but I'm a coward. I didn't have the courage to admit what I've been going through all along. Especially the fact that I could not fight Emily back on this because I was that weak in front of her. Things got worse when I got married to Mark. A lot worse. When I was just his girlfriend, Emily had hoped that we would break up and Mark would find somebody much more, quote, suitable for him. However, when I got engaged to him and then we got married, all the hopes Emily had of me leaving the family absolutely shattered in an instant. It made her angrier than she ever was before, and her torture and abuse turned even worse. She tried to tell the family how much of a loser I was in school and how nobody wanted to be my friend, but then when she was hit with very weird questions of why she did not just hang out with me in school, she told everyone that I never welcomed her warmly and I would always just turn her away. However, no one in the family got the hint that she was lying. I'm not sure how that happened because they knew that I never told somebody, to go away like that, but they could not disagree with their blood as well. So I had to make up an excuse saying I wasn't very comfortable with her friends since I was a shy person in general. It got so worse over time that I contemplated breaking off the engagement because I did not want to be part of her family and be subjected to this torture all my life. I was so sure of my decision that I told Mark that we needed to talk about something important. However, when I reached there and saw Mark's face, I realized that I loved him and wanted him in my life forever. That's how I ended up here. I now have 2 wonderful kids with Mark, and even though Emily has not been the nicest to me all these years, I've learned to ignore her and whatever bullcrap that she's spouting. I don't know, the one thing that really bothers me about her behavior is the fact that she transferred her hate from me to my children. This was an obnoxious thing to do, honestly, because these were her brother's kids as well. Anyways, now that you guys understand the backstory and everything that's happened, let me tell you what's happening right now. Basically, Emily also has 3 kids now, and one's really close to my oldest child as well, because they're the same age. My child Sarah and Emily's daughter Summer always hang out together and do everything together. I've tried telling her to stay away and not let Emily know anything about the family, but since I have not told them the reason and all of the bullying that Emily put me through, they just think that I'm being dramatic and overanalyzing the situation. Anyways, Summer's getting married in a few months, and obviously since we're family, we're invited as well. I don't want to go to the wedding at all. I don't think I'll be welcome there, and I don't want to be subjected to all her harsh words, especially because I don't want my family to be associated with that as well. So, when the wedding invitation came through in the mail, I took it and hid it in the drawer because in a panic, I thought there would be no other way for anyone in the family to know about this. I was wrong, of course, but, Sarah already knew Summer was getting married, and Emily let Mark know about it as well. For a day or 2, I managed to hide it. But then Mark came home one day asking where our wedding invitation was, and I could have acted confused and pretended I knew nothing about it, but that would just end up making me the bad person, and Emily would surely turn it around and cause a fight if she found out. So I handed him the invitation, but I guess it might have appeared to be a bit harsh, because Mark was very confused about the situation. He knew that I did not really go along with Emily, and we've had a rocky history since middle school. He didn't know how bad it was, though. For me to throw the invitation in his hand might have been a bit of a shock. But I didn't care. There was no way that we were going to attend this wedding. And that's exactly what I let him know as I slammed the door and walked out of the room. I know I let my anger get the best of me, but there was no way I was going to go to a wedding that I knew would end up embarrassing me. Not when I got a nasty message from her last week expressing her discomfort in me attending the wedding, and her words, the only reason she was inviting me was, quote, because she's fond of her brother and nieces since they're nice unlike me. Update number 1. My family wants to attend Summer's wedding. I'm so terrified of wanting to attend this event because Emily has ruined my life and everything nice that I could possibly ask for. She found a way to make, it miserable for me. I want my family to understand where I'm coming from, but I get that they can't do that since I have not been truthful to them either. However, I did let them know that I would be uncomfortable with attending the event and asked if they could skip it for my sake as well, but they did not understand. When I said no to attending, Mark got really upset at me because Emily is his sister and they're really big on family. He wanted to attend the wedding and did not understand why I'd feel the need to skip it just because of some silly issue. Well, as soon as he said that, my anger rose up to the sky, and I felt like those cartoons that have smoke coming out of their ears every time that they're angry. I cannot understand the fact that somebody would go against my decision to do something that Emily wanted them to do. The thing that made me angrier than usual was the fact that Emily had such a big hold on my family, and they were willing to disregard my own opinions and do whatever she wanted them to do. I understand that it's a wedding, which is a big event, especially because Sarah is so close to Summer, and Mark is close to his family as well. So, I ended up having a big fight with Mark over the situation because none of us were willing to back down, and we've got really big issues regarding stubbornness. None of us wanted to back down because I knew I had a genuine reason to not attend the wedding, and Mark was stubborn because he thought that the reason I was not willing to go to the wedding was some childish middle school rivalry that I was still stuck on. He doesn't know that Emily has been torturing me and subjecting me to anxiousness all my life, and most of my issues regarding mental health come because of her. So it made sense why he was acting so annoyed when I completely refused to let anyone go to the wedding. What really hurt me, though, was the fact that Sarah fought with me about this as well. She walked in while Mark and I were arguing, and because she heard a bit about it, and she knew what was going on, she realized that I was not keen on letting anybody in the family attend Summer's wedding. Now, I know why this might have angered her, considering how close both of them are and they do every single thing together, so I knew it was kinda selfish of me to ask Sarah not to attend the wedding, but I knew what Emily had planned. Every single family gathering or any event that we go together, she always finds a way to embarrass me, but make it look like it was my own fault. The last Thanksgiving dinner that we had, Emily tripped me while I was carrying the turkey to the table. As somebody who's in their late 30s, I'd expect her to have a bit more common sense and not pull pranks like these, but she seems to be stuck in that mean girl high school energy. It was super embarrassing for me to go through that in front of the entire family, and as I stood there covered in food while Emily prompted everybody to laugh at me, I realized that she was never going to change. It was always going to be the same, and I would always be too weak to let anybody know that I've let myself be subjected to this torture for decades now. So, when Emily fought me over this and ended up staying in her room the entire day, I was very shocked and hurt. I still am. It's been 2 days since the incident, and no one's acknowledged the fact that there must be a reason as to why I'm so hesitant about going to the wedding. I don't know what to do anymore, because once again, Emily has managed to tear my entire family to shreds and make me feel alone. Update number 2. This situation has simply gotten really dire now. It's absolute chaos, but at the same time, I think things might start to get better from here. Let me explain what's going down this past week. You see, basically, remember when I said that Sarah overheard the conversation/argument that I was having with Mark, and then he got mad at me for even suggesting that we skip the wedding? Well, yeah, so as it turns out, she was really annoyed, so she let Summer know that I was planning on doing this. This meant that Emily obviously found out as well. It's safe to say that she does not going to be happy at all with this decision. According to her, she already invited a few people since Summer wanted to have a small wedding, and me canceling at the end moment would cause a lot of problems for her, since the empty chairs were going to look really embarrassing. She also let me know that she had, quote, cut down a few friends just because she invited our family and she did not even think I was worth all the trouble that I had to go through. All of this was said to me by text the night before she came over and started a whole chaotic mess in the house. When I saw the message, it was right before I was going to sleep, and I did not have the mental energy to deal with her at the moment, which is why I left her on scene. It stuck to her the wrong way because the next morning she was over at my house, banging on the door so that I could let her in. I instantly knew that the only reason she even managed to come over and be this brave was because Mark wasn't home. If he was home, there's no way that she'd even ring the doorbell that aggressively. She'd probably come home and play the victim, cry a few tears, and express her sadness about me not attending the wedding. Now that he was not home, it was just really easy for her to barge in and express her anger and make me feel inferior in front of her. She came in, and from the moment I saw her face, I knew she was about to bury me 6 feet under the ground. There was no way she was going to let me off without making me feel utterly worthless about myself. The screaming began as soon as she put her bag down. I was not a little kid anymore, so there's no way I was cowering away from her at any time. However, the trauma from everything she's done to me as a kid was still present in my anxious brain, so there was a lot of times when I just stood there and accepted the fact that she was calling me selfish, arrogant, good for nothing, just because I didn't want my family to attend her daughter's wedding. Well, these were all the words that I've grown up hearing anyway, so they were nothing new for me, but they were certainly new for Sarah and my younger daughter Paige. Well, they had just arrived home after Sarah had gone to pick up Paige from school, and they entered the house to hear Emily screaming horrible things towards me. As soon as Emily saw them, her whole persona changed, took a complete 180-degree swing. Her scowl, well, turned into a smile as she shut her mouth up and welcomed them home. However, nobody missed the nasty look that she shoved my way before grabbing the bag and rushing home to, quote, run a few errands. Now, both my daughters are super confused and shocked about what they heard, and they've been begging me to tell them about it, but I don't know if I've got the courage to admit something like this to my own children. I don't want them to know that their mother's such a loser that she could not even fight back to protect herself. Neither was she brave enough to let anybody, especially Mark, know what happened between them. I guess we'll see what happens next. Update number 3. Hey guys, I finally had to tell my daughters what happened and why their precious Aunt Emily was screaming at me like I just murdered her child. Initially, well, I was stuck on not letting anybody know what was going on with Emily. It seemed way too embarrassing, so I wanted to hide it from my kids as much as I possibly could. However, I know it's not easy to come home to your aunt screaming at your mother while she's just standing there still in silence. They were probably curious, but the way that they grilled me for answers got me a little upset a bit. I took a dig at them and told them to mind their own business and to not interrupt grown-up stuff. However, that night, well, that was wrong. It was a wrong thing to say because both my daughters are extremely mature for their age. This time, I felt like they were parenting me while they told me that it's important I let them know what's going on in the family so that they could act according to that as well. I understand their point, so guys, I went ahead to tell them everything. And I mean everything. I told them how their aunt used to bully me and emotionally torture me through high school and middle school. I showed them the letters that she would write to me, telling me to go ahead and, well, change schools, because I would always be an outcast in this one. They asked me why I never threw these away, but I did not have a response. I guess I wasn't brave enough to do so. Throwing those letters away meant letting go of everything that happened in the past. How can I let go of something that I'm still being subjected to? After that, I told them how she made me feel like an outsider in the family, always increased the work for me, and made me feel ashamed for certain habits and lifestyle choices. I told them how she was the reason for my anxiety and self-esteem issues, and I showed them all the text messages their dear aunt had sent me over the course of years, where she'd called me names, telling me I did not deserve to be part of the family, promised me that she would never let me feel entirely welcome in this family, and I don't know, as soon as I was done telling them all the chaos, I looked up to these both Paige and Sarah sniffling, while tears ran down their cheeks and onto their laps. They looked at me like I was the strongest person that they've ever seen, and to experience being on the other side of that look was something that I'll never forget. They let me know that they were on my side now and that they'd never let Emily treat me that way again. They even told me that they did not want to attend Summer's wedding anymore, and they'd rather stay at home and spend time with me. I was a bit concerned because Sarah was really close to Summer, but the only response I got from my sweetheart of a daughter was that there's nobody more important than me. I'm so grateful that my own family loves me so much, and I can't wait till Emily realizes that she doesn't have my family in her grasp anymore. Update number 4. Mark fought with Emily for me. Guys, I was so shocked when it happened because I knew how much Mark adored his little sister. So to see him arguing with her with such intensity for me was something that made me fall in love with him all over again. The day that I had told my kids everything about Emily, I'd taken myself out for a little dinner, so I could have some quality time by myself. However, when I came back home, Mark was on the couch with my daughter surrounding him while he held Paige's phone in his hand. Fury evident in his eyes, and well, apparently Paige had screenshotted all the messages that Emily left me over the years and sent them to herself so she could show Mark that something was really happening. They didn't want to wait to tell him. Instead, they bombarded him with information as soon as he walked in the door. They knew that I would never tell Mark, which would put a dent inside his relationship with his sister. So, well, I guess they decided to put matters into their own hands. I'm super grateful that they did this, though, because it's true that I would not have had the courage to do it myself. As soon as Mark confirmed the entire situation with me, I burst into tears, trying to explain how much I suffered through all these years. Seeing me like that made him even more furious because he took my hand and drove all the way to Emily's house at 9 at night, so he could just give her a piece of her mind and truly tell her that, what he thought about the situation. Emily was shocked when she saw that happen. She could not understand how I got the courage to let my family know what she's been doing to me all these years. It made me furious and also super ashamed to see that her older brother, the one that she looked up to so much, was this disappointed in her. Mark was furious because he loved me, and he showed me that by announcing the fact that nobody in the family would be attending Summer's wedding, at least not until Emily got down on her knees and begged for forgiveness. Emily had way too much pride to do that, which I guess is why she disregarded the very real threat her brother made and pretended like everything was okay. However, Mark made sure to cut all contact with her and make her suffer from the consequences of everything that she's done. We also held a family dinner where we exposed her for everything that she's done over the years. Proof, text messages, letters, you name it. Emily was very shocked and started crying as soon as Mark and I pulled out the letters. However, no one felt any pity for her, since she deserved so much worse than what she was getting. Even then, the entire family has decided to not talk to her anymore and simply exclude her from the family, since they don't want to be associated with somebody who has such a mean personality. Emily has been absolutely shattered since then, and I could not be more satisfied by it. She truly regrets everything that she's done over the years, and she keeps sending me apology message after apology message to ask for forgiveness, so that everything can finally fall back to normal, but I don't want normal. I want her to put in double the effort to compensate for everything she's made me go through in life. I'm sure that she's going to do so because now the one person that she looked up to for her whole existence is absolutely furious with her, and it's all her fault.
So it turns out that OP and her sister-in-law have been having a lot of issues since they were little. There was a comment that caught me up, and I was thinking, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Why didn't OP do this? The comment was basically saying, this is a little bit OP's fault, and let me explain why. OP allowed, well, the bully, which was her sister-in-law, to go ahead and build this up over all this time, and OP never tried to put a stop to it, telling her husband, telling the other side of the family, or even confronting her sister-in-law. She kind of just let it went on by and just accepted the fact that she was being bullied. And the commenter also mentioned they don't think it would have got this bad if OP would have done something a little sooner and not let it progress for over a decade or longer. Let me know your thoughts about that comment though, guys. Go ahead and drop your opinions down below in our comment section. My name's Mr. Reddito, and I narrate stories every single day. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you want to support the channel, all you gotta do is hit that subscribe button. I'll see you tomorrow, but remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya!